you are building a relationship with your audience. I podcast. I don't know who my audience is really all that well, but they know who I am. It does something that no corporation, that no big agency or anything like that can do, and that's actually build a personal relationship with your audience.
Welcome to Built to Scale, where we have real conversations with entrepreneurs just like you about what it takes to build a thriving business without sacrificing your personal life. My name is Craig Severinsen, and I help people make more money working with better clients while also working less. And now I'm sharing it all with you. Let's dive in. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 8. I'm really excited about this episode because we're speaking with Geoff Kullman, who is just a fantastic copywriter and storyteller, and he works with really high-end clients, experts in their fields. You know, he's working with some of the top names, and we talk about how he's growing his business. I think you're going to be really impressed by the stuff we talk about. So number one that I want you to look out for is Geoff actually talks about his number one marketing platform for growing his own business and attracting clients. And I think it's going to surprise you what that platform is. Number two, we talk about the importance of growing your personal brand so that your expertise and authority precedes you in your marketing. And then number three, we talk about doing things at the right time and how that can make or break your business. This is a fantastic episode, and I'm really excited to share with you. Let's dive in. We're already connected, but the last time we talked, I love this story because I think it speaks to who you are as a person. COVID had just started to really hit, and I remember seeing all these entrepreneurs shutting down and being like, "Well, I'm just going to bury my head in the sand," and I wanted to do something to kind of encourage people to move forward. And I reached out to you and a bunch of other people, and I said, "Hey, let's do a summit and like every day just give really practical tips for people to like keep moving forward right now, so that they don't just lose everything." And you were one of the first to just step up and be like, "Yes, 100%, I'm on board." And so that was the last time we talked. Mm-hmm. But for those that don't know you, give us a little bit of background. Like, what do you do? What's your business? All that stuff.
Yeah, primarily a copywriter. So I'm the guy that writes emails, that writes websites, things like that. That's mostly what I do. Mostly for personal brands and thought leaders, experts, those types of folks. Been picking up a lot of authors lately as well. So just folks that are experts in what they talk about in their field, but not necessarily in marketing. So that's where I come in to help them. Although lately as well, I've been doing a bit more coaching, a bit more on the personal brand building side for folks, which ties in with my niche, who I write for as well. But people that are a bit earlier stages who want to build their brand and all that as well. So that's mostly what I do, is some writing, some coaching, a whole lot of fun.
Cool. So I want to dive into like, let's go back to like the beginning, right? Like, so what got you into writing copy? Why you serve the people that you're serving? Like, what got you where you're at? What drove you?
What drove me? Well, I was one of those kids who, I'll go way back on the therapist couch and all that. I was one of those kids who stood behind my mom's leg and was shy and nervous to talk to anyone. I had a brother who spoke more than enough for both of us. So I never talked until I was about 5 years old. And I went to school and discovered this thing called writing. And I found out, hey, I could actually have a voice here. I could create stories, tell stories, make myself a hero, have fun adventures, all that with writing. So that was my first adventure, if you will, into this thing called writing. And then always enjoyed it, always loved it, always liked escaping into whatever world I could create. And then as a young adult, and then later on in whatever stage, little bit before midlife, maybe, figuring that, hey, I can actually help other people figure out their stories and write that for them as well. So started a long time ago, my love for writing, and it just seemed like a natural transition to make as a career.
That's really interesting, that writing was first an outlet for you just for expression, right? To be heard and to have a voice. Is that something that still plays into your business? Like, do you look for people that are maybe a little bit needing that voice, or is it like, how does that play into today?
Right. So it depends. Is the lame answer. So people who are still figuring out what their brand is, like that coaching side of things, they really need help still figuring out what that message is, what that story is that they should talk about, that they should speak to, that will connect with their audience. The folks that I write for, they're making a good career, they're making a good living, they know what they're talking about, so they don't need as much help with the message or the stories or figuring that part out, but they do need help with packaging that well to convert an audience, to build an audience, to get their audience to buy their book or buy their product or whatever. So I work with both, with folks who are figuring it out, folks who have figured it out but need help with the writing part. But building a message, building an audience is always important.
That's really interesting. I think that it's hard for, at least in my experience, it's hard for people to understand what their voice is in business. Like, I think it's hard for people to understand what their voice is, period, but their voice in business, so how hard is it for you to like draw that out of them or to help them identify that? Is that a difficult process or something pretty quick for you?
Again, it depends. It depends on the person. It depends on how willing they are to go into that conversation, right? So if they're like me as a recovering pastor, it's we hold things pretty tight because we're used to towing the company line. Folks who worked maybe in the military, or folks who worked in legal professions or wherever, where they had to toe the company line and be careful about what they said. That's still hard for them as they're building this personal brand to try to figure out, can I really lean into this? Can I really tell that story, or do I have to hold back? So helping people, giving people the permission to lean into that can be difficult at first, but once you find it, once people give themselves that permission to lean into their own stories, then it usually comes pretty quick, at least to the point where we can start playing around with it and molding it a little bit more.
I imagine that's pretty powerful once they make that transition, because I think that's what B2B, B2C, it's all H to H, right? It's all human to human. And I think once you allow yourself to be you, the phrase I use a lot is like, be aggressively you. Like, once you can be aggressively you, that's when business really starts to take off. That's when like it becomes exciting.
Yeah, and that's the power of a personal brand too, right? Is you are building a relationship with your audience. I podcast. I don't know who my audience is really all that well, but they know who I am. I tell stories of my life. I give them insights into how I think. We're building that relationship, even though I can't see them or talk to them, they can hear me and talk with me in that sense. So I get to be aggressive. Was that Rihanna or something? I forget. But right, I get to be aggressively me towards them, which is powerful, because it does something that no corporation, that no big agency or anything like that can do, and that's actually build a personal relationship with your audience, one-to-one, instead of a big group.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've had this experience, because it's both flattering and kind of trippy and creepy at the same time, where it's like, I've run into people, I even went to a conference just a couple of weeks ago, and someone came up to me and they had been watching my YouTube videos and they had been like engaging in my trainings and my content, and they're like having a really intimate conversation with me. And it's like, it's almost affronting, because they're at a level where it's like, they've got a personal relationship. So it's like they're standing closer to me, they're leaning in, and I don't know them. So like my inclination is to lean out. But I think that's it's creepy because it's like a stranger who like knows you and you don't know them, right?
Yeah.
But it's really cool because that's authority. That's like why you do this sort of thing, is to cut down that time between, I didn't have to go up to that person and like introduce myself and build a authority. Like, they came to me predisposed to asking me really pertinent questions about their business because they had already gone through that process.
Yeah, and your reputation has gone before you, right?
Yeah, totally.
Even though you, with that individual, you didn't personally reach out and build your reputation with them as an individual, but your reputation in general as a whole has gone before you and entered the room and said whatever you wanted it to say before you ever entered there. I've got a buddy who he's a podcast producer who talks about the the intimacy of podcasting specifically for him, but that personal brand, the stories we tell, the relationships we build with an audience, that in many cases, like he says, we've been naked together because so many people like listen to podcasts like in the shower.
Yeah.
It's a bit too intimate, probably like way too intimate, but yeah, they've welcomed you into that space. Maybe not. We can take that analogy way too far, but they welcomed you into that space where they could, where they are building that trust with you before you've ever spoken an actual word face to face with them. It's powerful stuff.
So interesting. Yeah, it's true, and it's interesting. So I'm getting curious here. So you just talked about how you're written word type of guy, emails are your jam, but you're doing podcasts. So like, why, talking about your personal business, why is podcast in the mix there? Is that like your main marketing, or is that just a piece of it? Like, how does that fit into everything for you?
Pretty much my main marketing piece. Yeah. And it's been very interesting and heartening to see it grow too, where people know me, the messages that people send on Instagram or wherever, where people feel like they know me better than they used to. So yeah, that's mostly what I lean into nowadays is growing my audience. I also use my podcast as my excuse to grow my own expertise. Like I dive into material I wouldn't usually touch because it's causing me to really grow as a writer as well. And so as I'm going along that journey and teaching people through that journey, they're learning it too. But the beauty of it is then as I'm learning and doing it selfishly for my own purposes, they're seeing me as the expert. They're seeing me as the authority who's helping them figure this stuff out for themselves too. So I've also just recently started up a whole second episode per week thing because I couldn't handle just one, I guess, where it's interviews every single week on top of the solo episodes. So now I'm also building my network.
Oh, cool.
And again, building my network, but also introducing my network to other folks, again, which just builds my authority and expertise in their minds that I can use to serve them, but also leverage later on cool. in a selfish way.
So since we're talking about it, what's the name of the podcast? Just in case someone wants to go check it out, what's the name of it? Absolutely. Where's it at?
It is the Psychology of Copywriting podcast.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And is that just on just anywhere podcasts are?
On your favorite podcast player. Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. So I love that. And I think that's true of any like brand building marketing, whether you're blogging or you're on YouTube, podcasts, speaking. But there's something about the podcast because, I've recently, we're on my podcast right now, right? Like I've recently kind of taken the dive into that. And what surprised me about podcasting versus like YouTube, which I've been on for years, or LinkedIn or Facebook, is that people are reaching out to me and telling me the impact it's had, which has not happened to me on other platforms. And I think that the intimacy of being in the bathroom with them, in the car with them, like that's where they're watching and listening to these things. I think there's a big power there. So it's been an interesting journey for me, at least.
Yeah. Or hearing their kids yell in the background, in my case. Maybe the microphone doesn't pick that up, but yeah, it's so powerful because you're doing life together, really, right? You're doing it while you're getting dinner ready, while you're getting ready in the morning, while you're working out, while you're in the shower, like we talked about, right? So it builds that intimacy with an audience that can't be replicated anywhere else that I've come across. And it's interesting too how an app like Clubhouse, which has kind of died off a little bit, but it's interesting that this audio forum has kind of started to pick up some steam. That we don't just want just video or just text, but there's something about hearing someone's voice and being able to connect with them that way that's unique.
Yeah, and like the future of think about all these voice activate, Alexa, Google, right? Like Siri. All of these technologies, like that's going to start as those get better and better. That's going to start being more of a part of our life. When your refrigerator starts talking to your car, starts talking to your, Alexa, and you're just like, put on Geoff in the car or at home in the shower, and then it transitions to your car as you're walking out the door, like that's going to just start being more and more of our life, which is it's cool.
It's cool, creepy, but cool. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I'm all about I don't know if it's called the Internet of Things, right? Where it's like all the things are connected on an internet that we don't interact with. Like if you have a smart whatever, it's talking to your other smart whatever. I'm all about that, man. If on my drive home, the fridge can tell my car we're out of milk, and as I pull up, my watch tells the house to turn on the lights. I'm all about that. I think that's cool stuff.
It's living life as the Jetsons, right? We finally get to experience what it's actually like. There's certainly privacy issues and whatever, but I think overall it's just really cool that we can get to live life this way. It seems pretty awesome to me.
So as speaking of the future, as you look towards the future, where are you taking your business? Like, what's on the horizon for you?
That is a fantastic question. I'm trying to figure that out, what the next step is. So I'm trying a membership site right now where people can join in on that, getting copywriting resources and all that stuff. I'm not loving it as much as I thought I would. Like it's useful, it's helpful for the folks in it. I thought it would just be the next phase that I would totally dive into and just love it. I like it. I don't love it. So it's not that. I think honestly, my next step is just going back into writing, or not that I ever left it, but getting back into getting those, for lack of a better term, like high-end clients who need me to write for them.
Yeah,
that I can invest in that project, because that's what I'm like most. Not a one-off project that I can, write a homepage for, but an actual like full-on launch or full-on something for an authority, for an expert that I can really dig my teeth into and do for the next 3, 4, 5 months. That's what I really want to get back into is serving those folks who can then serve their audience really well, and they've got a big audience, so they can serve a lot of people really well. That's what I want to get back into most.
That's cool. Yeah, and I totally relate to that, because I went down that same path a few years ago. I launched a membership and I filled it, a good amount, and then was like, so things I don't tell you about memberships, right? Number one is to grow it. Like, you need resources to throw behind it. You need money for ads. You need to really dedicate your business model to that. And then number two is lots of people normally means not much implementation, right? You know what I mean? Like, you get lots of members into this group, and some of them will have home runs. Some of them will completely fail. Those are small percentages, but it's like a bell curve. Most of them get mediocre results. And for me, I hated it. You know what I mean? It's like you're working so hard, but because there's not enough one-on-one attention, or because you're working with just a huge pool of people, membership sites really suck a lot out of you. I think that they're really good. One, if that's your passion and you can dedicate your whole business to that, awesome. Two, if you're at a level where you're like past the 7 figures, like you're $1 million business and you can throw team and ad money behind it, then it's a good move. Otherwise, I'm with you, man. Like, stick with the high impact, higher ticket. It doesn't have to be, $30,000 to work with you, but higher ticket, and you're going to get more impact. You're going to have a lot more fun. You're going to have great relationships with your clients. I'm in the same place as you are. I love that stuff.
The clients that I work with, the $30,000 clients, those folks, they're invested, they're experts, they're A-type persons usually, who want results and want it now and want it the way that they want it, and so that they expect excellence. Whereas the membership model, and I mean, I've been part of this too as a customer, I know, but membership model folks are usually not at that level yet, and so they're not expecting those great results, so they don't get those great results.
Yeah. And I don't, we're sitting here kind of bashing membership models, and I don't necessarily, like think they're bad. I just
no.
I get really upset when I see like entrepreneurs come into. I can totally relate. For those listening and not watching, a kid just ran into the room with Geoff, and I can totally relate to that. More than welcome to have, bring him on screen. But I get really upset when I see like people take the membership or the webinar training or the whatever, and they're trying to grow their business off of these really small sales. And like
Mhm.
they're pouring all their time, all their money into it, and they just don't get off the treadmill because every time they make a sale, it's not big enough to make a big enough impact on their business, and they're bleeding clients out the other side. And so it's just like make a sale. It's like one step forward, one step back. It's literally a treadmill. And
Yeah.
to me, it's like, let's stop that and let's start going after bigger clients with more impact so that you can get traction. And then if you want the membership, go for it.
Right. And that was I think the big mistake that I made. I'll try to see if this guy will go, wait, we'll see, brother. That's the big mistake that I made is I, for lack of a better term, I burned out from my, one of my last big clients. And so I was ready to make a shift. I needed the mindset break or whatever, but I didn't fill my cupboard with the next high paying client. I just tried to pivot right to a membership. And so I went from a multiple 5-figure client to, oh crap, I'm making $200 a month.
Yeah.
Right, with a membership model. There was just no, the transition was not smooth. And so that was probably part of it too. I don't love the membership model because it's such a massive shift in income when you're working with high-end clients to a membership model that, in startup mode doesn't make tons of money right off the bat. So that was a mistake that I made that I think people can probably learn from, is have a better balance. If you're going to make the transition, do it better than I did it.
I did. You're telling my exact story because I did the exact same thing. I went from really high-end clients to 1 month to automated webinar and membership the next month. Like it was like, and I went from a multiple 6-figure business to the last month I was running it like a year later. Like I dedicated a whole year to this model. I made like $200 1 month, and I've got a family of 6. You know what I mean? Like it was like panic mode, and that's when I learned all those lessons that we've been talking about. It's because it does work. You just have to be at the right stage of business for it. You know what I mean? That's, unfortunately, I call that my $1 million lesson because it probably is what it cost me. But like that's the lesson you got to learn, is do the right things at the right time, and don't try to rush to be okay with being where you're at. Like it's okay, and
absolutely.
Whose definition of big or successful are you going by? Yours or what you think it should be, like what everyone else is putting on you?
Right. And there was an ego thing too for me. I don't know if there was for you. I'm sure you have no ego whatsoever.
Oh no, not at all.
Not at all. Just like Moses, you're the most humble man of all time. He wrote about himself. Like the ego play was that I thought, I have an audience now. I have this podcast that's, growing. I have these great names that I can put behind mine of clients that I worked with. I'm ready. People will just flock to me now. I didn't put it in quite such flowery terms, perhaps, but I figured my audience, my network, my whatever was ready. No, it just takes a lot of work. Actually, you can't just flip a switch and be like, okay, network, I'm ready for you to bless me with your, millions of dollars now. No, it takes intentional time and investment.
Yeah, it's almost the other way around. It's like, instead of like, I'm ready for you to bless me with my money, it's like, I'm ready to bless you with the opportunity to pay me, right? Like it was the same way for me. I left and I was like, I'm too good for this now. I'm too good for the one-on-one clients. I'm too good for, like my business has progressed beyond that. And what I realized is that I wasn't, and it was not what I expected. So I think totally there's similarities there. I want to take a stop second and completely switch gears, because I think it's important to just note, I 100% am about like have a business and a life. And the fact that your son just came in, you picked him up, we interacted with them. There's no that is awesome. And I just want to point that out to say, awesome, good for you, but also like for those listening, like that is what being an entrepreneur is all about, right? Is like having time for those things that really, really matter. And Geoff just excellently demonstrated it for us, which I love.
Well, I appreciate that. But what I actually struggle with the most, even I was talking with my mother-in-law, oddly enough, like 2 weeks ago, like I still struggle with when they barge into the office or when they want to go play. And I still say, no, I got to get this task done. I have to get this thing done for this client first, and then I'll go play. And so sometimes that's just true. There's a deadline or whatever.
Yeah.
But, we build our lives, we build our business around our life so that we can be free to just go play. And I'm still not there of, oh yeah, I'll drop this task and just let's go to the playground. That's not there yet.
Yeah,
I wish I was.
Well, I think that's a struggle. That's like ongoing struggle for everybody. But I'll give you like what I do that has really helped me is I have identified, and I'm sure you've done this too, but I've identified those things that need to be done every day for my business, right? Mm-hmm. And if I do those things, the business moves forward. That's the marketing, the sales, all the stuff that needs to be done. And I just chunk out the beginning of the day, every day, to do those things. And then I've got another chunk of time where it's like, these are the priorities for today. So that when I get to 11 o'clock noon, the most important things, what is this? I guess I'm describing like that eat the toad method or whatever. I actually never read that book, but it's like eat the toad first thing in the morning, I think is the principle of that book. But like I just get done by 11 or noon, those things that are like most important, so that if that happens, I mean, obviously if I got calls or something like that or a deadline, then I can't, but like I've tried to structure most days that if that happens, then I can just take the time off. And excuse me, most of the time it's not the kids coming in, it's me saying I'm done, like I don't want to work anymore, I'm gonna go make dinner, or I'm gonna go watch a TV show or something. But that's really helped me. I don't know if that's helpful for you, but that has really helped me.
Yeah, and I've gotten much better too I used to come down here every night, and after the kids were asleep, I'd work for another 2, 3, 4 hours, whereas now we put the kids to bed and we watch TV or we go to bed, right? There's no more. So that's been good.
So that's a struggle for everyone. So how did you make that switch? Like, what was it that made you go, you know what, this isn't healthy or this isn't good. I'm going to change it.
I wish I could. My ego wishes that I could just claim some massive expertise. I'm just old. We get tired now. That's mostly what it is. We eat dinner, we put the kids to bed. It's mostly then just, I'd rather just stay in bed, right? Our kids are young enough where 3 out of the 4 want us to like cuddle them to bed, which is cool. But it also means, my body starts to go, oh, this is comfy. And I've tried to go back to work after I was so comfortable, and it just doesn't produce any good stuff. So we just don't do that anymore. We go watch TV or lay in bed ourselves.
I can 100% relate to that, because I think, for me, leaving my corporate job was 100%. My second son, or my second child, first son, was just born, and I was sitting in my office being fake busy. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, seriously, what am I doing? And when you get that, so I don't know, this isn't helpful for those that don't have kids, but when I look at my kids and I look at now what was yesterday seemed like a baby, my oldest is now 11. Like, that's just crazy. Yeah. And to think how fast this time flies, man, I want to be as present as I can every step of the way. And that to me is a huge motivator.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, similar. My oldest is 10, and it's coming to the realization of, geez, it's not too much longer until he's off to college, or in a year or two doesn't want to hang out with us because we're not cool enough anyway. So
yeah, totally.
Taking advantage of the moments we got.
I'm totally worried about that day. I see it coming. But I always joke that my daughter's been a preteen since she was we called her a 3-nager, a 4-nager, like 4-tween. Yeah. Cool, Geoff. This has been a great conversation. If someone wants to find out more about you, they want to maybe even work with you, where do they go?
2 places, or I'll give you 3 actually. The one is just my website, geoffkullman.com. It's got the same handle at Geoff Kullman on Instagram. Send me a message there. Or go check out the podcast, Psychology of Copywriting podcast too. Those are the 3 places that I tend to refer people to.
Love it, 100%. Thank you so much, Geoff. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening. If this episode helped you, share with someone who needs to hear it as well. For more information on how you can work with me and great resources for your business, head over to builttoscalehq.com. Join us next time for Built to Scale. And until then, take some fast, focused, imperfect action. I believe in you. I got your back. We'll talk soon.